Thank you.
Hello, everybody. A few months back, Bishop Barron had an opportunity to give another lecture on Capitol Hill. If you want to check out the full lecture, the link is in the description below. I want to focus on the Q&A at the end of this lecture. Bishop Barron gets asked a litany of questions.
Does America have a healthy enough institutional life to cultivate what is objectively valuable? What does that look like for us day to day? Are there institutions, I'm thinking primarily about schools, that are too far gone?
These questions, I believe, reveal a very different worldview between Bishop Barron and the politician, and I think this difference speaks volume to what ultimately matters most. Let's find out what the difference is all about.
Bishop Barron, I think they like what you had to say.
Yeah, well, I appreciate them very much.
No, thanks again for being here at Heritage, for your witness. And I want to home in on one of the key parts of your address. I have some questions for you that are only indirectly related, but I'll be abusive later.
Abusive later? Wait, what?
Objectively valuable. We spend a lot of time here at Heritage, in addition to the work we do in policy, helping other institutions, not just policy institutions, get started, expand, scale, as our business friends like to say. The question for you is, does America have a healthy enough institutional life to cultivate what is objectively valuable?
So part of the question, is there hope for objectivity in a denigrating society? How would you answer that question?
Well, I worry about it, especially with our educational institutions, because if they're predicated upon this sort of dominant subjectivism of our culture, they're not going to draw people into that world. Or if they just accept this view that we create value. I think a great teacher is someone that, again, breaks into your subjectivity and rearranges it and offers you something. In the introduction, you made reference to two Thomases that are very important to me as a young kid, Thomas Merton, Seven Storey Mountain, and Thomas Aquinas. Both of those represented for me a breakthrough, something new, a novum, in my consciousness that lifted me up out of the little world that I was in. That's what our educational institutions have to do. And I think of all those mediating institutions, I'm a great advocate of that. We shouldn't just think of government and people, but it's government, yes, but then a slew of mediating institutions whose basic purpose is to inculcate objective value. Whether that's a local business organization, it's a local, Kiwanis club, or whatever it is, they're meant to inculcate value of some kind. Do we have the strength to do it? I don't know, but that's what we have to do.
Pay attention to what Bishop Barron just said. The institutions of a society exist to teach objective value. It begs the question, what would be the position of the politician here? Forget objectivity and overthrow by force and corrupted power?
I'll press on that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because we also like to think about when we have gatherings like this, people leave, they're inspired, which I know they will be because of your comments. What do we do as individuals? So, really, pressing on this, tonight when our friends are home, tomorrow morning when they're up and they're thinking, Bishop Barron made these really good philosophical, historical arguments, but this is what I have been tasked to do, to revitalize institutional life. The press is, what does that look like for us day to day?
Well, I think parents have been teaching your kids and being deeply aware of as I said, the epistemic and the moral and the aesthetic realms, and to introduce them to those realms. To make sure if you're on school boards, make sure your school's doing that. Vote for politicians that understand that dimension of public life, and avoid a merely sort of, as I was putting it there, a purely Hobbesian understanding of things. So I think politically, socially, educationally, address the institutions you're part of and make sure that they're trading in real objective value.
A way of thinking about what Bishop Barron is saying here would be the small things are the most important. Those closest to you are more important than trying to change a society politically.
If I may ask a little bit of a hard question for any of us who care about institutions. Are there institutions, I'm thinking primarily about schools, that are too far gone?
This politician is a pessimist level 1000.
Yeah, it could be some of them.
I'm not putting you on the spot,
no,
honestly, truly, but
there could be, and I have friends of mine who have founded schools, and there's a whole movement in our country. Think of the Chesterton Academies in the Catholic world, the people who've taken it upon themselves to invent new educational institutions and have done a good job at it. Raised the money and hired the faculty and the administrators and organized them institutionally. So I admire that. Instead of complaining, do something. um, and elect. I remember Cardinal George of Chicago, who died about 7 years ago, was sort of a mentor to me. And as a major archbishop in this country, he gets complaints all the time. Why is the church doing more? And what's going on? And can't we? And he would say, well, you elected these people. He'd say to the lay people, you elected them. So now take public responsibility in your political life and get better people elected.
If de Tocqueville were here, he would remind us of that too.
Yeah.
And speaking of him, I love your concept that you pushed on the Tocquevillian equilibrium, and it causes me to ask this question. It seems as if we have two problems, among others: the degradation of civic culture and the deterioration of political life broadly. What we feel often here at Heritage, and scanning the audience, people from in and around the nation's capital doing political work in sort of an Aristotelian sense. The collision of those two things, or the combination of those two things, seem like we're almost in a helpless spiral. And is the only answer out of that, or the first only answer out of that, spiritual life? Is there anything in the secular world that can initiate that revitalization?
No, sure. It's when you're in touch with moral value. So people who are in the world of business or the world of finance or world of entertainment in the cultural realm, what are the moral values that obtain? So it's not just making money, or it's not just advancing my reputation, but what are the moral values that obtain? Vatican II, for Catholics, talks about the role of the laity is to sanctify the world. And so it's not the bishop's job to do that. The bishop's job is to teach and to sanctify, and then to send great Catholic business leaders, great Catholic lawyers, great Catholic writers, great Catholic politicians who are not incidentally Catholic, but they're Catholic at the heart of what they do. And if every time you make a moral choice, John Paul II said that. I mean, you're doing something good, and you're also making yourself better. You're creating your own character in a way. So do something morally upright in whatever area of life you're in.
So this exchange was very intriguing, and I stated in the beginning of the video, it is because they have two different worldviews. Bishop Barron has one worldview, this politician has another. The politician has a pessimistic, almost a society is lost, and what are we going to do about it type of mindset. And I think for him, the antidote is something like human political leaders will arise and they need to strap up their boots and begin the plotting of civic regeneration. That seems to me what he was trying to extract from Bishop Barron. In short, he has an enlightenment positivity about the individual and almost a doomsday prepper with Armageddon armory vision for society's end. It's an interesting concoction. And I think that this politician personifies much of the cultural psyche well. Bishop Barron has a different worldview. He has a sense of God's providence. And although things might be bad, or in his words,
Could be.
it could be, there is no sense of action or panic because God is sovereign. Yes, we need to be politically active and doing good and being the best type of people that we can be and voting for the right people. But there is something more than that. Namely, a worldview that trusts by faith that God will do what is right and God will bring about what he promises. That allows the Christian to rest. While others are busy working themselves up into a political dust storm, Christians can settle and rest at the feet of Christ, knowing that he rules and reigns and will bring everything to culmination and completion. Jesus famously said, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid." Now, let me ask you, which one of these worldviews best fits these words? A peace in gaining power and control over society, or a peace that is not like the worldly kind? Really, when we think about it, the peace that we're offered is not grounded in this world at all, but transcends it. And because it does, that means it is a lasting and true peace. So, when the world is expecting doom and summoning its existential soldiers to arise in their strength and build a tower to make their name great, remember Babel, Christians preserve in peace and wait, taking whatever comes their way because they know that this world and its systems are fading. And I think Bishop Barron was intuiting that. And one day Jesus will return and make it all right. Worldview matters, and you really do have to pick and choose which one to live into. And based off of this video, I definitely suggest that Bishop Barron's is the better one. All right, that's all I have for this clip. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Remember that Christianity is Christ, and without him, there is no Christianity. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.